Hey everyone, what's going on and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hello, I'm AmazingChi, or should I say, hola, soy AmazingChi, because we're in Spain. It's in the title, it's in the thumbnail, it's already been spoiled by both of them, but let me officially say, welcome to Tenerife. Let me show you what we're working with. Now, I've already gone through that intro manager stuff to get a little bit acquainted with the side before I show you what's going on here. I've got the kits in. By the way, if you are a fan of Tenerife, please advise me on what the kit situation is, because the kits were labelled in the kit pack with what is the third kit as the second kit and what is the away kit as the third kit. But in game, it's the pink one as the away. So please let me know which is the actual official away kit, because the game and the kit pack had them in opposite ones. So it'd be nice to know which is the actual one. But Tenerife, you can see from the graph in the bottom right here, you can see for the last decade or so, or decade or two, they have largely been a second division side in Spain. A couple of promotions followed by immediate relegations, including a double relegation. I'm guessing something financial happened there. But they steadied the ship, they got re-promoted, and they've been in the second division for quite a while now. A brief flirt with the promotion spots, or playoff spots if that's the thing here. I will double check the rules in a second. But they have been comfortably in the second division for a while, and the media prediction is mid-table as well. We'll get to that in a moment. There's a bunch of affiliated clubs, none of them are above us, they're all affiliated downwards. I jokingly called the derby with Las Palmas the El Canario in one of the future simulation videos I did way back when, before I learned how to edit properly. So I apologise if I don't know how to sit through those videos with long, awkward silences, but Las Palmas, obviously the rival as another Canary Island side. They are on Gran Canaria, I believe. If you've, like me, been to the Canary Islands, like 90% of probably the British population have, you're probably aware of Tenerife as a whole. Tenerife are named after themselves. Las Palmas are on Gran Canaria, I think. I don't know where Lanzarote and Fuerteventura are in the footballing structure, but they're not listed as a rival. And they're not in the second division or higher, that's for certain. In terms of famous people in the favoured personnel, I don't know how you pronounce his name, but Jupp Heynckes is a manager. Is a name that stands out, but Rafa Benitez as a manager stands out, and Jose Perez. This is, of course, where he was nicked from by Newcastle. There are 11,000 ticket holders in a 23-ish thousand seat stadium. It is a ridiculous stadium for a side that is, well, where they are, basically. It's one of the biggest stadiums in Spain. Heliodoro Rodriguez Lopez. I'll put a picture of it up right now, just so you can see how big this stadium is for a side that is in the second division. It's a little weird, to be honest, but I'm not going to argue about it. It is owned by the council, unfortunately, but I'm not going to argue about it because, in theory, it's going to provide us with a nice little bit of income with that many seats available. There's good training and youth facilities, adequate corporate facilities, that's fine. The youth recruitment's okay, basically. So there's nothing really horrible on the old recruitment front either. And yeah, there is a playoff system. Top two go up automatically, playoffs third through sixth. It's a very familiar system that's seen across the world at this stage. They did have a brief flirt with playoffs once, but largely mid-table. And mid-table is the prediction again, 14-1, 10th. Relegated sides, Espanyol, Leganés, and Mallorca join this division. Girona here, Almeria up there mixing with. There's a weird situation where we're loaning a player from Almeria for 10.5 grand. He's the highest paid player here. It's really weird, and I don't fully understand it, but we'll get to the players in a minute. Tenerife and Las Palmas occupying pretty much the exact middle of the predictions as well, the two Canary Island clubs. I forgot to mention, briefly, in terms of that previous simulation situation, Tenerife became the dominant force in European football in that simulation, which is part of the reason why I've done it here. I want to replicate that as an active manager. But Las Palmas joined them at the top of La Liga. They became a top four club about a decade later. And it became a huge rivalry, the Tenerife-Las Palmas at the top of La Liga in that future simulation. I would love to see Las Palmas get dragged through with us somehow. I don't know how I'd manage that, but all focus is on Tenerife for myself here. But yeah, the Canario derby, isn't it? I called it El Canario as a joke. I can't believe that was actually correct. But that's the situation. Espanyol, favourites to go up, and then a bit of a dogfight maybe behind them in theory. They do occupy most of the players, except for that one there. Irritatingly, there's 2 players in here. They have exactly the same first kit colours. Yeah, Pardo and Palencia are Leganes. The rest of these blue ones are Espanyol, just to give you an idea of the situation I'm up against here. These 2 players in white and red are actually 2 different clubs. One's Almeria and the other's Vallecano. The only one to be sort of slightly out of position here is Sporting Gijon's goalkeeper. They're predicted 8th. The rest of them are all this top 6. And in terms of the tactic, I've just arbitrarily plugged in the 4-4-4, the 4-2-2-2 from Sheffield and moved it around to the formation I want to play here. The reason why I'm going to be playing this is because we're not predicted to be the very top. We're mid-table, but we're not predicted to be very top. So I want a slightly more defensive formation with the deep-lying player in that defensive role, and then it allows the 5 in front to be a little bit more expansive, maybe expressive, I suppose the word would be. A couple of these roles are going to be shifted around a little bit, I would imagine, but over the course of the year, and the instructions are likely going to change over the course of the year as well. But at the moment, it's basically just the Sheffield formation plugged in and shifted around a little bit. But the main reason for this is, like I say, we're not predicted to be the top. We're not going to be a dominant force in this division. And if we do get promoted within a year or 2, let's say, and the squad isn't supremely advanced at this stage, the Liga is a tough one, from what I can tell. It's a tough one to survive in, so having this defensive formation as the primary trained tactic may work wonders, may help us going forward after a promotion, just to survive in the top division. In terms of the squad as a whole, though, it's an interesting one. I'll highlight the problems first straight away without going into any detail, but the main issues straight away in terms of depth are strikers, this right-hand side, possibly this defensive midfielder, although that's okay. Defence is an issue as a whole, and right back isn't supremely got amount of depth. There were words there, make the sentence yourself. But there's only 2 right backs and no one who can cover. In terms of centre backs, most of the people who can play centre back aren't actually familiar centre backs. I think there's actually only 3 players here that are centre backs first and foremost. Anyone else who can play there is either a defensive midfielder primarily or the left back. Alex Munoz is one of them. In fact, the ball-winning midfielder in this formation right now is one of the top centre-backs. In terms of transfer priorities, centre-back is 1, right-back is 1. Like I say, there's only 2. Ideally, a centre-back who can play right-back, basically, is what we need, because the registration rules are a little weird in the second division here. It's just 25 players. That's it. 25. No more, no less. No age restrictions. 2 non-EU spots. That's the only restriction. You can sign anyone. They don't need to be homegrown, as far as I can tell. Don't need to be necessarily need to be Spanish, but as long as they're EU, it's fine, seemingly, but you're only allowed 25. You can't have youth players like skirting around the system. Like the youth players don't have to be registered. In fact, I'll just double check that youth player situation, but I don't think that's a thing. You just have 25 players and that is it. 23 outfield players as well. 2 goalkeepers, basically, and 23 outfield. I'll just talk about why these roles are problematic now. We've talked about the defensive ones. The ball-winning midfielder one's sort of alright, but one of them is Aitor Sanz, who's 35, and I don't know how well he's going to hold on this year. I'll show you him in a minute because he is one of our key players. Alberto's playing there for now. There's sort of 3 players who can go there. That's why I've sort of said it's okay, but I'm not sure how good they all are in that position. But the main ones are realistically striker and this right-hand side. Left-hand side, as an inside forward, we've got about 8 of them. Right-hand side, there are 0 left-footed attacking midfielders. Bermeo is one of them, right-footed. Arguably the best one here, valued 700k, 13, 13, 13 in finishing first touch and dribbling, inside forward wise. Superb there, triple 13. Physicals aren't great, mentals are pretty good. The rest of the technicals are quite good. Has potential too, so could develop. 21, could develop. Right now, Shashoa, God knows how I'm supposed to pronounce that. Again, arguably more of an inverted winger than inverted forward just because of the crossing over finishing, but got attributes to work with here. But again, right-footed. Known as another one, right-footed. Again, very similar actually to Shashoa, although with slightly worse mentals. Hoslu, more of a striker, but again, right-footed if you're going to play him. Jacobo, right-footed, even though he is primarily on the right side. More of a winger. Not great though. Borgilasso, the main one, by the way, can play centrally, can play as an attacking midfielder. We're not going to be using that position. Probably most likely to play him on the left once he's back from an injury. Nope, he's 9 to 11 months. That's fun. $8 a week for a player who is injured. That's a major issue. I knew he was injured. I hadn't actually looked at the injury, foolishly, before I started recording this. Just in case you've seen his name, the Hoslu I did just go on him briefly. Not the Newcastle one. Not the former Newcastle one. Thank God. Although still not amazing either. But our main players realistically are Valentin Varda, who is on loan from Almira, as I previously mentioned. We're paying another team in our division £10.5 a week. Can't explain it. I mean, I can sort of explain it looking at his attributes, but it's a weird financial decision to pay a player £2.5 more than any other player in our squad that we actually own on loan. It's a little weird. I'd understand if you'd actually signed him, but as you can see, in terms of the attacking playmakers, no one there. Valentin Varda can actually play in that position as well. You can see the list of players who can go on this left-hand side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's a couple of loanees that I'll probably just straight up cancel if I get a chance to, because they're not up to scratch. Like I say, there's about 8 of them and they're all right-footed. One of those was the left back, in fairness, as well. So he's the backup left back, he's all right. But the starting left back, quite good. 13s, 14s, very well-rounded. Very, very well-rounded. A lot of these players, irritatingly, are contracted to the end of this calendar year, this season. Bruno Wilson on loan in central defence, quite good again. Quite well-rounded. It's a squad full of 3 stars and 3.5 stars. There's not a lot of clear outstanding players. Sipcic, basically the only young central defender that we actually own. The other ones are a little bit aging, if I'm honest. But he's all right, again, rounded. And the right back, Shaq Moore, which I just love as a name. Physically very good, mentally very good. Technically got the crossing as well as a sort of marauding fullback. And lastly, just to cover the main players. Cervantes is quite a good goalkeeper, 3.5 stars. Goalkeeper, we've not got an issue. The backup's 3 stars. They're both fine. Both of their contracts run out at the end of the season as well, so that might be a problem. But in terms of playing, they're both all right. And lastly but not least is Aitor Sands, who mentally is really, really good. Mentoring, gonna be a thing. Aitor mentoring everyone. Physically, already declining a little bit, maybe. He's 35, 9 and 10 isn't horrible for a 35-year-old. Natural fitness of 14 is quite good, and the technicals are quite good as well. Arguably best to sort of stay a little bit further back. Maybe as the ball-winning midfielder, as the player that sits back, stays back there. Doesn't need the pace, doesn't need the acceleration too much. Arguably that's going to be the position he's used in most. Bit of a Tenerife legend as well, 8 years at the club. I think there's another one who's been here for quite a while, and that's Susto, 35 as well. Physically for a 35-year-old, 14 acceleration and 13 pace, quite ridiculous. But again, contracted at the end of the year. As much as I kind of like him, he's one of the very few players who's naturally on the right, but the problem is he's naturally on the right and right-footed. Realistically, he's 35. As good as those attributes are for a 35-year-old, doesn't really fit into the system I want to play because I want to be inverted on the right-hand side, and he's not really natural on the left-hand side. And it's probably a little bit late to retrain him, especially as his contract's up at the end of the year. But another Tenerife legend, just wanted to highlight him. But that's the squad. That's the squad. I'll let you know what's gone on with the transfer on the next episode, who we bring in, who we let go. I've highlighted the key positions. We'll see how we fill them in next time. If you haven't done so already, like, subscribe. I'll see you for the next video. Ciao.